All right. So I'm going to start out with a little poem for you guys this morning. A little something that I wrote, some inspiration I had last, I think it was Thursday night. And so here we go. So rise and fall with the sun, unplug and get outside. Eat beef, seafood, mushrooms, berries, greens, and fats from fruit, olive, avocado, and coconut. Eat rice and potatoes to support high volume training. Match your calories to physical goals. Walk every day. Sitting is the enemy. Learn self defense. Oh, I went out of order. You were born to run, throw, swing, carry, and drag. Learn self defense. Regularly train compound movements, squat, hinge, pulls, and presses. Master basic gymnastics and calisthenics. Bike, swim, and row at various durations and intensities. Mix these elements in a balanced, structured, and progressive manner. Add variety as needed for mental stimulation. Have fun, breathe deep. All right, so I messed up my own poem. But this is what I'm calling Fitness 101. Or in other words, that's 101 words. So fitness in 101 words. Some of you may have seen fitness, or I guess I call it world-class fitness in 100 words that's out there on the internet. And so that I was inspired by that. I've referenced that world-class fitness in 100 words many times. But as I've evolved with my own training and my own coaching and my deep dive into understanding fitness, health, nutrition, exercise, all that, I recently looked at that world-class fitness in 100 words with new eyes. And it really just popped out to me what resonated with me still to this day, and what I disagreed with, and it inspired me to essentially rewrite it. So, for anybody on the interwebs who's like, this poem's a ripoff, yes, it's my reinterpretation, and I'm not even going to mention who wrote it originally, because nowadays, people like to cancel you for everything. So if you know, and if you don't, then cool, because all you need to know is that this is what I believe where you ought to start with fitness. Print this out and put it on your vision board and start to live by it. Understand it, look at it, and think about what it really means and how to incorporate it into your life. And so that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to start with line 1, rise and fall with the sun, and actually get into what that actually means and why I wrote that and why it's important and what the science is behind it. So yeah, it's kind of like a poem, but really it's just, this is the shorthand, layman's way of expressing what's important, what I've found is important from the world of science and applying it to your health and fitness journey. So that's my plan for the next couple of weeks with these calls. I want to dig in and sort of interpret this here for you, and also my nutrition document. And so if you guys aren't aware, this is on my blog on the website, or the gym's website, Train Athletic. You can also go, if you haven't already, go to the homepage and download the nutrition document right here. Click download and you'll put in your email, and I'll send you that document in email. And actually, I'm going to make some very, very minor revisions coming up here soon. But whatever, if you apply and get it today, it'll essentially be 99.9% of how it'll be even after I revise it. But we'll plan to go through that document and make sense of it for you. So I've got a couple other posts in here if you want to understand our level system, Here's a little essay I wrote about the paleo diet, my take on the paleo diet. And the Triathletic Way is more of like the business side of just me framing up, our method, our values, our sort of principles. Um, so looking at this Fitness 101, I want to focus in here on Rise and Fall of the Sun. And I think it's the perfect day to do that because it's the Monday after the daylight savings spring forward. And so here's an interesting fact. This day, the Monday after we spring forward, every year, hospitals see a 27% increase in heart attacks. So that's folks coming into the hospital for a heart attack. They see a 27% spike. And actually, they see the exact inverse on the day that we fall back. That following Monday after we fall back, they see a 21% reduction in folks coming into the hospital for heart attacks. Why is that? Because we are so sensitive to the circadian rhythm, to the clock, to the cycle of the sun. Well, I guess the sun's not going around the earth. I almost said the sun going around the earth, but to the earth's revolutions and the sun rising and falling in our perception. And it has everything to do with our perception, literally the light in our eyes. And just by disrupting that, even 1 hour, disrupting 1 hour of sleep, robbing people of 1 hour of their day is enough to take folks who are presumably, a little bit at risk to begin with, and for that to just be the straw that broke the camel's back. And unfortunately, for many, it means they have a heart attack. And so not good, right? It seems completely unnecessary. Personally, I think we should just stick with this current time. I don't mind the extra evenings. It kind of gives you, especially in the summertime, like a whole extra day after work hours. We're just talking about how crazy it is, that in the summertime, you can come home from work, you can have dinner, and then you can go to the pool for a couple of hours or get out and go to the park or do a run or whatever it is. So I think we should just stay that and just leave it alone. That's my personal opinion. Whichever side we pick, if people are morning people and they'd rather more light in the morning, let's just stop disrupting it. I don't know. We actually have a petition. What the heck? A petition going at Natural Grocers for that. So there are petitions to stop the daylight savings. So I think that's interesting, something you guys can check out. But let's kind of get into why this is so important and what I mean by saying rise and fall of the sun. So it's probably exactly what you assume I mean. And I'm talking about your sleep cycle. So when we're talking about improving your health and fitness, we really have to start by looking at your sleep cycle. The reason being is so much of what's happening outwardly with your body, so meaning your body composition, and also inwardly your perceptions of energy, and hunger, well-being, have to do with hormones and neurotransmitters. And so hormones are like the rhythms of the sun are cyclical. They're cyclical and they're cascading, right? And so what that means is that they're on a timer and they signal each other. And different hormones are meant to peak and valley at different times. And this is very predictable, and they've studied this and looked at this. And so, this is a nutrition call. And so talking about the hormones that are related to hunger and cravings, well, let's just look at those. So you've got a couple, right? You've got, first of all, you have leptin and ghrelin. Those are what people really consider the hunger hormones. Um, it was hard for me to remember which one was which for a while, but I've got an easy way to remember this. Think your stomach is growling, your stomach is ghrelin, right? Ghrelin. I mean, it's the hunger hormone. Leptin is the opposite, it's the satiation hormone, okay? Now, you would think that those hormones are just going to release kind of at random, like, oh, I haven't ate in a while. Ghrelin is going to ramp up and I'm going to feel hungry. And then, oh, now I'm full. Leptin is going to ramp up and I'm going to feel satiated. That's kind of true, but it's also true that those hormones are on a timer and they're going to ramp up and they're going to peak and they're going to valley at different time points in the 24-hour cycle. Okay, same thing is true with insulin. So insulin is the hormone that helps our body get nutrients into cells. Same thing with cortisol. Cortisol is on the other end of the spectrum. It makes us feel more awake and it releases nutrients from our cells for energy. You have a similar hormone, adiponectin, which is similar to, it works kind of in conjunction with insulin. So it's going to make your cells more sensitive to insulin, and it's going to help with the utilization of nutrients. So what I did was I kind of just asked myself the question, what's the optimal time of day to eat? And I was hoping to find some studies that maybe looked at this and just answered that question directly. But I took it even down a level, kind of the first principles idea, and just realized that if you understand the nature of these hormones and that they're on a timer, then you understand what they do, then you can just kind of make sense of that story and figure out when are you actually supposed to eat, or when's the most optimal time to eat. And what I found was that that's about between noon and 2 p.m. Okay, so at between noon and 2 p.m., your hunger hormone is going to be the highest, ghrelin. Your adiponectin is going to be at the highest, so you're going to actually have your cells more sensitive and willing to receive nutrients. Your insulin is going to be down. Now, that might seem kind of weird. Or rather, your insulin is going to be up. That might seem kind of weird because you're thinking like you don't necessarily want insulin to be up and then to spike it even more, right? But remember, insulin's job is to actually get nutrients into cells. So it does actually make sense to eat when insulin is high. Sorry that I said that backwards to start. But yeah, so you've got your hunger hormones up, you've got insulin up, you've got your insulin sensitizing hormones up, and all that put together means if you eat a meal, you're going to be honoring the signals of your body, right? So you're going to honor that hunger signal, and B, you're going to have the hormones in place to actually utilize those nutrients, right? And so that's a really good thing. What you're also going to do by honoring those signals is allow your body to experience less stress and to become normalized and in sync with that rhythm, because that's where your body wants to become in sync. So the short version, and the reason that I think this is so neat is because we were talking about intermittent fasting. We're talking about doing the 2 meals per day. And this lines up perfectly with that. So I was concerned, I'll be honest, I was a little scared when I went looking for this information, because we had previously just talked about skipping breakfast or doing a sort of light, fat coffee for breakfast. And I was really worried that I was going to find out that all the evidence pointed towards like the old idea that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. And that I was going to find out that all those things I just said, ghrelin's the highest, insulin's the highest, adiponectin, and that, man, I'm wrong. We should really be eating in the morning. But that was not the case. Actually, those hormones are all still pretty low in the morning time. And what actually is meant to be high in the morning time is cortisol. So cortisol is going to release energy from your cells, right? So it's doubling down on this idea of doing the fasted breakfast because, and especially for fat loss and weight loss, because in order to burn fat, that's what we need to do. We need to release um, energy from our own cells, specifically fat from our own fat cells, and to use that up. If we never do that, then we're never going to burn the fat. Where is it going to go, right? So by doing that fasted breakfast, we're really just kind of leaning into what's already true and available. So the hunger hormone is going to be very low in those morning hours. So it should not be difficult. And if you're getting a hunger signal in the morning, that's likely just remnants of kind of past behaviors, because your rhythms will come, in two ways. You kind of have your default, your factory setting, which is what I'm describing to you now. But then you'll have kind of the overriding settings, the things that you've been doing, right? So if you've been eating a big breakfast and then you try and switch to a fasted morning, then yes, you will get some hunger cravings in the morning because your body's just trying to repeat. It is trying to make sense of the 24-day cycle that you've put it into. It's trying to make a pattern. But because of your factory setting, if you ease into that fasted morning, that fasted breakfast, you'll find that it becomes really easy, really quick. And that's what I've found. And that's what most people who I've worked with have found, especially if you're including some fats in your morning coffee. So things that, we talked about recently, you could do some of these, the Laird superfood, we've been calling that out as a product. They have like some coconut MCT type powders. They have that with the functional mushrooms. Some people do coconut oil. I really kind of like the coconut taste in my coffee. But then some folks do the butter, the grass-fed butter, which can be good, especially if it's salted. That in keto, that salt can kind of make up for sort of that flatness in exercise that you would otherwise not have if you were having carbohydrates. And yeah, I mean, that's basically it, coconut or butter and some mushrooms. One other one I've been doing, this might technically break the rules, but is goat's whey. And what's interesting about goat's whey, it's not actually a significant source of protein. It's only about 2 grams of protein, but it's really high in minerals. And it has kind of like a chocolatey flavor. So I've been doing just a half a serving of the goat's whey to get some. It's really high in potassium. Like if you do 2 full servings of goat's whey, you'll exceed your potassium needs for the day. So it's really kind of neat because potassium is hard to get. You have to eat a lot of greens, a lot of potatoes and whatnot. So I've been doing the goat's whey with grass-fed butter and my coffee. That's how I've been doing my morning coffee. And I can push through. The other day, just to see, I pushed through until 3:30. And I had probably actually missed my window where ghrelin's up, my hunger hormones are up. And I actually had to, like, at that point, talk to myself and be like, hey, you need to eat some food now, unless you want to have just like an absolutely disgusting dinner, because I'm not trying to be in a large calorie deficit. I'm still trying to eat a normal amount of calories every day. I'm just trying to shorten that eating window. So that's how rise and fall in the sun. That's one way it ties in with the diet. Okay. So rise and fall with the sun. Your hormones are cyclical and they're cascading. So think about what I just said earlier. By robbing folks of 1 hour, it's putting them over the edge and they're having a heart attack. Okay. When your schedule fluctuates, when you rob yourself of sleep, it disrupts not only the circadian rhythm, which is the sleep wake cycle, but it disrupts all those other hormones as well. They get just a little bit thrown off. And that's going to mess up your craving signals. That's going to mess up your ability to utilize nutrients and store them and get them into cells. It's going to, cause spikes in stress hormones at the wrong time, which is going to, which is associated with fat storage. So it's messing some things up there with hunger and body composition. It's also messing with your mental energy, which goes downstream to everything. So if you're kind of suffering from, lethargy, from sort of brain fog, and not feeling like you're kind of as vibrant as you want to be, then doing the rise and fall with the sun is also going to help with that, right? So, and you can imagine this, you can kind of do this mental exercise and imagine exactly how you would feel. So imagine, you had a hard day at work and you got home and, sun went down and you just went to bed and passed out, and it was a Friday, and you had absolutely nothing to do, and you just slept great through the whole night, and you woke up because the sun was pouring in through your window. You didn't close the blinds maybe, and it's a really sunny day, right? And now you get up and you're like, darn, this is a nice day. Like, is this the first day of spring? What's going on? And you get outside and you just experience the fresh air. And maybe you say, you know what? Like, I'm already feeling kind of awake. Maybe drink some water, use the bathroom, and you take the dog for a long morning walk, right? Tons of sunshine, the birds are chirping. You can imagine when you come back from that walk, you're already feeling pretty awake, right? Now imagine that your friend or your family member or somebody's like, hey, we're going, to the pool today, or we're going to the lake today. Like, where you been? Like, let's go, get ready. You're like, oh, sorry, I was out walking the dog. You get ready and you go and you have a full day out in the sun. Okay. You can imagine that you're probably going to feel pretty alert, pretty happy, pretty good that whole day. It's super low stress. You're not being asked to do anything else but, just be out in the sun, having a good time. You can also imagine how hard you're going to sleep that night. Okay. None of this is a coincidence. Your brain is connected to the circadian rhythm, which is the rhythm of all your hormones, through sunlight coming through the eyes. Okay. And what's really interesting is the sun, we don't necessarily register it, but our brains register it, is it gives off different hues of light at different points in the sky. It's like a timestamp that our brain does register. And by the way, it doesn't register as well with sunglasses on. Okay. So if you have darker eyes, if you can get more natural light into your eyes, this will really align you with your natural rhythms. And so it's a timestamp. It's literally the sun in your eyes is literally telling your brain where in time you exactly are. And you can reset your entire sleep cycle in one day. If you could live out that perfect day, you could reset your sleep cycle. So like if um, take a trip to Hawaii, people have like jet lag or whatnot, and they might think to themselves, I want to get, I just want to like get to the hotel and like just turn off the lights and go try and sleep and normalize myself. Actually, the quickest way to get over jet lag and to normalize yourself would be to spend as much time out in the sun as possible, and your brain will try and figure it out. It will figure it out. Um, and what you'll see is if the closer you can align yourself with that, with sleeping while it's dark and getting maximum sunlight in your eyes, it's going to normalize some of these other hormones. So we were talking about the hunger hormones, but we're talking about stress hormones like cortisol. Cortisol can be a really good thing. We're supposed to have spikes in cortisol, but it's supposed to peak in the morning. We're supposed to have this big awakening in the morning, and it's supposed to kind of downregulate in the evening, and that's when melatonin should take over and allow us to get sleepy. That gets really disrupted when we don't spend enough time outside and when we're inside, because artificial lights, the light on your laptop, the light on your phone, if you're in an office and it's artificially lit up, that's all just giving this sort of artificial, this sort of weird, confusing signal to your brain about what time it is. And so it's kind of just like you're always in noon, right? And then you couple that with work stress, and you couple that with whatever family stress, and now all of a sudden you're getting potentially these cortisol spikes that are dysregulated. Couple that with caffeine, right? That 2 o'clock coffee, staring at your computer screen. Now all of a sudden your body's releasing cortisol as if it was 7 a.m. That's not a good thing. That's going to prevent you from having that good fall with the sun, that ability to fall asleep. Higher cortisol is connected to more cravings, more impulsive behavior, more bad decision making, which is all correlated with weight gain. Okay, so we want to get that regulated. This is also going to affect our testosterone release. Men and women need that. Our estrogen balance. It's going to affect dopamine. It's going to affect serotonin, the neurotransmitters. All right. And so it's really going to dictate kind of who we are, how we're experiencing the world, and how we are thriving or not thriving in the world. So it's not just something that kind of sounds nice, this, rise and fall with the sun. It might be the most important thing, because all of this, eat beef, walk every day, learn self-defense. These are all things that you have to do and that you're never going to do if you don't have the motivation and the feelings of well-being to start with. Getting a good night's sleep in the hours that we evolved for 2 million years, maybe more, to actually sleep, to honor, our own DNA and what we were meant to be, is the critical first step to even feeling like doing this other stuff, this is all good. This all sounds nice, but if you don't even feel like doing it, we're not going to make it, right? And that it's not your fault if you don't feel like doing it. It's not a deficit of, character or willpower or anything. It's that you're getting the wrong signals. If you have, I'm sorry for you if you have some kind of swing shift or midnight graveyard shift. It's just going to be really difficult to feel the way you're meant to feel, which is really good. You're meant to feel really good. Okay. So waking up with the sun in the morning, getting outside, getting some fresh air, getting some sunlight in your eyes is possibly the most magical medicine you can get. It's going to peak cortisol right at the right time. It's going to help dopamine. Dopamine is responsible for your drive. Dopamine, that hit of dopamine with cortisol in the morning is what's going to make you decide that you want to do these other things. It's going to give you the feeling of determination and belief that you'd want to execute on these other things and feel good. And then it's going to set the stage by having those all peak at the right time. It's going to set the stage for the rest of your hormones to peak at the correct times as well. And if you design your life around that, you can time everything out. So, what I'm suggesting with this rise and fall with the sun is everything we've talked about in the past, but I'm just really going off and trying to elaborate and beat it into your heads is that, the absolute best way you can start your day is to get up near sunrise. I don't mind if it's a little bit before or a little bit after, but within an hour of sunrise. And get, if possible, 15 minutes of early morning light into your eyes. It would be a great time to do this breathe deep piece. Take some deep breaths. And then we actually want to spike cortisol as much as possible during this, okay? That's why the coffee is actually a great thing. Coffee is going to spike the cortisol. Exercise is going to spike the cortisol. A jog is going to spike your cortisol. A horror movie, no, I'm just kidding, don't do that. A cold shower is going to spike your cortisol, okay? Early morning light, early morning cortisol spike. You're going to have plenty of energy if you do that. You're not going to have the hunger cravings, and you're not going to run out of energy before noon if you do that. Come noon, you're going to get that ghrelin kicking in. You're going to have some hunger. You're going to have, insulin rising. You're going to have adiponectin rising, and your body's going to be ready and primed to take in a meal and to use those nutrients. Have a big lunch. I'm wondering if lunch isn't the most important meal of the day. Have a big old lunch. Go for it. And then towards the end of the day, this is something we can work on another call, is we need to work on winding down. So a couple things we've already talked about that we need to do is have that shortened eating window. This will be even more challenging in the summertime because it's light out, but I think we need to cut off eating at least an hour before bed to get fully digested. If we are going to bed with a lot of food in our belly, it can disrupt our sleep. And we need to remove ourselves. We need to do this unplug and get outside. We need to remove ourselves from the artificial stimulation in order to have appropriate down regulation. Okay, so in these longer days, I think getting out and doing an evening walk is a great way to unplug and get outside. So get outside in the morning, get outside in the evening, do just a fat coffee for breakfast, do some exercise if possible. Otherwise, maybe just do a cold shower, spike the cortisol. And I think you're going to see big changes in your energy levels, in your mood, and in your body composition just by really aligning yourself with the natural rhythms of the day. And if this is not something you've done in the past, I think you'll be surprised at how naturally it comes and how good and natural it actually feels. So yeah, rise and fall with the sun and get your hormones right. Get your life right. All right, I'm going to stop there and open this up. What do you guys think? Any questions? Oh, Lisa was gone that whole time.
Seems like a real short day in the winter there, Dan.
Huh?
Seems like it would be a really short work day in the winter. Rise and fall with the sun.
Yeah, the winter time is tough. It is. But so I've looked at this 9 to 5, I think is probably the best sleep cycle. Because it's almost always dark, like all year round. 9 to 5 is almost always dark. Because it's shorter days in the winter, it's going to be harder to like maximize your exposure to light. But for the sleep side of it is just as important. And so if you can maximize your time in the dark and make it something that's consistent year round, then I would pick 9 to 5, because then, you know, you're not having any real massive disruptions to your schedule where it's like, I sleep 11 to 7 in the summer and, you know, 9 to 5 in the winter, and you're making some weird shifts there. I like 9 to 5. A lot of people like 10 to 6. And I guess 11 to 7 would be fine too. I think some of those studies that they looked at, let me look at my notes here. 11 p.m. is kind of when things start to really shift around with the hormones. So I would definitely cap people at 11 for bedtime.
Now I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I have a newborn child. I'm doing cat naps. We're up every few hours.
Yeah.
So
I have no good solution for this. I went through the same thing. And that's just the trade-off. That's the costs of being a parent. The only thing you can do really is still just try and maximize your time outside. Okay, so
yeah,
and kind of fight through that, you know, especially in the nicer months, because you're going to be tired. Getting outside might not be your instinct. You might just want to like nap. And if you need a nap, you need a nap. But like, if it's kind of between like, I'm feeling sluggish, so I'm going to sit and watch TV. Even if you've got the inkling of something else that like, maybe I want to go for a walk. Maybe I want to go to the driving range. Maybe like if the other thing maybe is outside, like get outside. It will, even though you don't feel it right now, it will bring you energy. It'll bring you restoration, and it'll pay off in the long run.
Yeah, I believe that.
But yeah, I don't. The kids is hard, very, very hard. You know, some people who really need help getting the sleep schedule started will supplement with melatonin. I think if you're going to supplement with melatonin, just make sure that you're still doing, the pre-bed ritual, right? So it's not like, I've spoke with people who are like, yeah, I can't sleep at night, so I just like take a melatonin and wait to get tired. And it's like, well, what do you do? Like after, when do you take it? They're like, like 40 minutes before bed. And they're like, and then what do you do? And it's like, they're playing video games or watching movies or whatever. It's like, okay, the signal from the screen and the interactions of the
It's 1
drama
o'clock.
is still going to override the melatonin. Like you might feel a little tired, but it's like you need to unplug. The unplug part is super critical. Get upstairs, or I say upstairs, my bedroom's upstairs, but go to your room, turn off the lights and stretch or take a hot shower, or dim the lights and read a book and take the melatonin. Okay, that's going to help you. But really, most people who I've seen fix their sleep cycles, it has less to do with what's going on at night and more to do in the morning. The morning is really the critical thing. Getting up and getting outside and getting that morning light it's insane what it does, because it resets the whole cycle. And so your body will, if you do that, your body will release melatonin when it's supposed to. But you want to be sleeping deep and you want that melatonin release. And I'm not totally opposed to using some melatonin if you need it, because melatonin not only is making you sleepy, but it's like great. It does things in your body. It repairs cells and it's good for your immune system. And I mean, they did studies where they were treating people or including melatonin as a part of the treatment for COVID because it has strong immune properties. Okay, so sleep, obviously the part that I didn't even mention here is like, that's when your body is repairing. Your brain gets, throughout the day kind of accumulates, just call it like a goop, but it's like these, proteins and fluid that needs to flush out and clean out. And it only does that at nighttime. So for a healthy brain, you've got to get restorative sleep. For your muscles to repair and grow, you've got to get restorative sleep. For your immune system to function, you've got to get restorative sleep. If all those are out of whack, like it's really going to be really difficult to lose body fat. And that's, obviously always kind of like where we're going back to in this particular meeting, because that's who we're speaking to, people trying to lose body fat. But it's like your body triages needs, right? It's got a hierarchy of the things it's going to try and do. It's not going to try and lose body fat if it's not able to, refresh your brain at night and repair cells and, even just get your hormones to peak at the right time. Like if it's not doing that, it's definitely not going to want to let go of body fat. So, yeah. I appreciate you guys, as always. It's my long lecture on go to bed. Go to bed. All right. Well, if nobody else has any questions, then that's a wrap. It's been another Monday. And I'll see some of you in the gym, and I'll see the rest of you next Monday. Peace.